When you come to Kvarner, treat yourself to an experience you will remember. Enjoy the luxurious ambience. Experience superior service. Indulge in endless pleasures. The pearl of the tourism offer in the pearl of the Adriatic. Liburnia, Hotels and Villas.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and a very warm welcome along to Vallelunga circuit for qualifying here for the NASCAR Grand Prix of Italy at the American Festival of Rome, the third meeting of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series here in 2022. Both the EuroNASCAR Pro and EuroNASCAR 2 classes will be taking to the circuit for their respective qualifying sessions this morning, and we'll be getting underway with the action on track in just about 12 minutes time. Temperatures around 21-22 degrees Celsius here at Vallelunga today. We're expecting that to get quite a bit higher, seeing on the forecast that the 30 degrees later on, easily the hottest temperatures that the drivers will be facing so far this season. And also at Vallelunga, 2 previous rounds here in the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series at this circuit, both of them in September and October, so definitely the warmest temperatures here this weekend. Add a little bit more of a challenge for the drivers, and well, they don't really need that because this circuit is pretty challenging on its own. It's very tight and twisty. It's got a couple of really fast sections as well, so I'm sure we're going to have some fantastic action here this weekend. 2 races apiece for EuroNASCAR Pro and EuroNASCAR 2. 2 today, 1 for each, and then another 1 for each tomorrow. But first, we have got qualifying starting in around 11 minutes time. And you can see the fans starting to make their way into the circuit. We've had some club racing already this morning. Drivers getting here nice and early and getting the track all rubbered in for our Euro NASCAR drivers. You can see the stands starting to fill out just a bit as one of the club sessions ends their practice session. Well, here is the circuit that the drivers will be facing over this weekend. Vallelunga circuit, obviously the third time we visit it in EuroNASCAR. 4 kilometers just over, and just over 2.5 miles depending on your unit of choice. 14 very tricky corners. You can see right near the end of the circuit, a very tight and twisty section right up at the beginning. Turns 1, 2 and 3. Some drivers say it's flat out, some drivers say it's not, so I'm not quite sure who to believe on that one, but a very tricky first sequence of corners, especially at the beginning of each of our races when the drivers are side by side. You can see quite windy actually at the circuit, just to add a little bit of spice to things for the drivers. And we are getting ready, just 10 minutes now left to go. And 14 corners, the first 3 very quick, then into the first heavy braking zone. Probably going to be the most action we see at the beginning of the race into turns 4 and 5. The Chimney 1 and Chimney 2 sections. Very good overtaking spot on the circuit after the long run all the way out of the final corner. Almost 1.5 kilometers down there. And then a very tight and twisty last couple of corners. Torrentino, Diese and Roma to end off the lap. A couple of overtaking spots on the circuit, so we should be in for some good action. Circuit pretty much unchanged since 2005 at this point, although it has undergone quite a few revisions. The latest addition to the circuit is Campagnano, which is turn 7, a little bit of an extension onto the circuit there. We are heading into rounds 5 and 6 of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series in each of the EuroNASCAR Pro and EuroNASCAR 2 classes. 4 rounds have already gone. We went to Valencia for the first round and Brands Hatch for the second, and this is what the drivers have coming up today and Saturday in that middle column. Qualifying for EuroNASCAR 2 is just a simple 20-minute session, but first we go for EuroNASCAR Pro, which is going to be a 15-minute session with all of our drivers, and then we take the top few drivers and they have a superpole qualifying session 5 minutes long to determine the very front running of the grid for today's EuroNASCAR Pro race, which will be 75 kilometers as usual. That's going to be a bit later on today, and then we'll have EuroNASCAR 2's race after that one as well. Then, of course, we are going to get our race 2s, but those are coming tomorrow. The drivers get a little bit of a break, so we don't have too much racing in one day for them. We don't want to tire them out too much. Having a look at the fans in the stand, it is going to be a very hot day here in Vallelunga. It's already quite warm, the drivers have been telling me. And so it's good to see that some of them have got their head protection there. They don't want to get all the sun in their face and burn horrifically. It's good to see that they are taking the necessary precautions. Well, I think it's time that we take a look at what's happened previously in EuroNASCAR Pro so far in this season. 7.5 minutes to go. Let's see what's happened this season so far. We obviously started off the season at Circuit Ricardo Tormo in Valencia in Spain. And this is how we got on for the first race. Gianmarco Curley at the front. Sorry, and Alexander Graf at the front on pole position. Unfortunately, dropped back quite a bit at the beginning. And it ended up being a very simple victory for Nicola Rocca, swooping around the outside at turn 1, never looking back. Alon Day making moves up through the field as well, which sets up this at the beginning of race number 2. Swoops around the outside once again, and he makes his way up towards the front. A big battle between Alon Day and Gianmarco Coley, and eventually Alon was victorious in that second race in Spain. Then we cast our attention over towards Brands Hatch for the NASCAR Grand Prix UK, and race number 1 there was very entertaining. It was Rocca leading Okoli, leading Day at the start, but it wasn't too long until Day made a lunge up into the Druids hairpin and made his way up into second place. He looked really dangerous in that sequence of corners from Paddock Hill up into the Druids hairpin all race long, and then eventually nearer to the end of the race, send up the inside of Rocca into Druids hairpin once again, takes the lead of the race, and then never looked back again. You can see quite a big gap as he comes across the line to take the checkered flag, and he matches the all-time record of 5 wins in EuroNASCAR at Brands Hatch. Race number 2, it was once again Day versus Ercole at the start. Here in towards the Druids hairpin, round the outside goes Day, and then they make contact here. Damage to both cars. Stay connected for quite some time in towards Graham Hill as well. The drivers are behind, just trying not to get involved too much. They did eventually take the lead, but damage to both cars and some penalties being applied as well in that race, I believe. Coley going off at Paddock Hill due to some of the damage caused to the rear of that very distinctive pink livery. But it was eventually Alexander Graf, who of course took pole position for the first round of the championship, then had a little bit of a disappointing first race. But redemption in race number 4 for Graf, and he takes the top step off the podium at Brands Hatch. And that is how things stand heading in towards this rounds 5 and 6 here at Vallelunga. Just about 5 minutes to go then. You can see the other cars on the circuit making their way back into the pit lane after their session is ending. We're getting the track ready for our EuroNASCAR Pro drivers to make their way onto the circuit for qualifying. They're usually pretty eager to get going. They usually have quite a few of them lined up near the end of the pit lane. It's only 15 minutes long, remember, this qualifying session, so you want to get your banker laps in early and then try and get just a little bit quicker over the course of the session. Just take a look at some of the practice results as well. The quickest driver, unsurprisingly, was Coley. Obviously having a very good start to the season with quite a few battles up near the front. But our championship leader, of course, is Rocca, who has just had such a consistent run through the first few rounds, never finishing below 4th position. First in the first race, and then a 3rd place in Valencia, and then in Brands Hatch, unable to take a win, but a 2nd place and a 4th place last time out. Those are the drivers that we're going to be looking for here in qualifying. Rocca, Day, Graf, we've got Dubek as well, who's done a pretty good job in qualifying so far this season, and of course Coley, who is, I believe, one of the only drivers to have actually taken a win at Vallelunga that is on the grid currently. Obviously last season, for the 2nd time out at Vallelunga, well, we had Jacques Villeneuve with us, and he took the win in both of those races in the final round of last season. We've got the point standings up on the screen now as well, so you can see just how everything stands heading into this round at Vallelunga. Rocca on top with 142 points, And then we've got Allende just behind, 18 points behind, definitely not an insurmountable lead. Alexander Graf in 3rd place. And then Dubek in 4th, and Gabilan in 5th place. Very tight, as you can see, especially in that top 7 or so. Only 11 points separating Allende in 2nd and Roman Iannetta in 7th place. So still plenty to play for in this championship. We're not quite at the halfway mark just yet. We'll save that for tomorrow's round number 6. Pit lane starting to get busy. You can see the teams starting to get their cars prepared. Now, something interesting about this championship is EuroNASCAR Pro and EuroNASCAR 2 share cars, and that's not just to say that the cars are equal, they are identical. Drivers in EuroNASCAR Pro and EuroNASCAR 2 will share a car for the weekend, so it makes it even more important for the drivers to not make too many mistakes and try not to damage the cars too much, because you're then putting your teammate essentially in some jeopardy for their session. So the drivers won't be taking quite too many risks. And one of the things about Vallelunga, on the inside of some of those corners, you've got these massive orange painted, so you can see them very easily, sausage curbs on the inside of some of the corners. And that's supposed to be a deterrent, but from what I saw of the practice sessions, it looked like, especially Allende, I saw a clip of him really launching himself over them. So it's like the drivers aren't too fussed about staying clear of those, but they can definitely cause some damage. I know one of the drivers did run over some of the more aggressive sausage curbs on the outside of one of the corners, and made some quite significant damage to their car. They had to get that fixed. Free practice yesterday on Friday. Did have a couple of red flags as well, so hopefully we don't see too many incidents here for the weekend, especially not in qualifying. Want to get these sessions over as quickly as possible so we can head towards those races later on today. 60 seconds left in the countdown to green. Drivers will be in the cars getting ready to go. They'll be lining up near the end of the pit lane in just a moment as we are getting ready for the first proper session of this weekend's American Festival of Rome. Three race winners so far in EuroNASCAR Pro, and as far as pole positions go, we've had a different driver starting on pole for each of the 4 races so far this season. Pole position in qualifying, Alexander Graf at Valencia and Nicola Rocca in the American Speedfest at Brands Hatch last month. 10 seconds to go. You can see the drivers starting to pull out and make their way towards the end of the pit lane. We are getting ready to go green for the first qualifying session of the day. And we should be getting that green flag command any second now. The drivers eager to get going. There it is. The green flag waves in the background, and we will get the first cars onto the circuit. There are a couple of drivers very eager to get going. Saw Curly making his way out there onto the circuit as well. And there is our number 88 machine making its way around. Has the red banner on top of it, but that isn't the championship leader in EuroNASCAR Pro. It is in fact the car of the championship leader in EuroNASCAR 2, who we will see out a little bit later on. One of the most popular drivers in the series, Alberto Nasca, at his home race as well, as are many of the drivers. Many of the drivers in EuroNASCAR Italians. So this being their home event here, they'll definitely be trying to impress their home fans who usually come out in massive numbers to this place. A fantastic atmosphere around the circuit. Loads of things to do for the fans as well. It's not just the on-track action. It is of course a festival after all. But they'll be making their way around now into one of the more twisty parts of the circuit. Into turn 10 they will go now, just weaving a little bit, getting hard on the brakes, getting back onto the accelerator and hard on the brakes once again. They're trying to warm up their Husia branded tyres, get as much heat into those as possible. prepare themselves for their first flying laps. There is the championship leader just behind our 88 car now in that 56. It is, of course, Nicola Rocca. You can just see him there in the background of that shot. They're making their way in towards the final corners now. They're going to be starting their first flying laps. Let's take a look and see these cars in action in anger. For the first couple of corners, we are going to follow this pink car of Ercole through the first couple of corners. Now, some of the drivers have said this is flat out. I know some of the drivers have said it's definitely not, and that they end up in the grass if they try and do so. So it is interesting to see the difference between the drivers, maybe slightly differing lines causing that. And then in towards Chimney 1 and Chimney 2. Loads of camber on these corners, loads of banking. Drivers saying they can't even see the gravel on the outside of the circuit because the banking around that corner is just that great. It should hopefully lead for some good overtaking opportunities through that corner. You can carry a little bit extra speed, and side by side should work quite nicely through there. Now into the newest addition to the circuit back in 2005, Campagnano. Open hairpin to the right, and then a little bit of a tighter one. Those big orange sausage curbs on the inside. Take as much of the exit as you dare, as there's more aggressive sausages on the outside there as well to try and stop the drivers from taking advantage of the little bit of paved runoff on the outside of that corner. And into the tight and twisty now through Semaforo and into Torrentino. Now the tightest corner on the circuit. Really slow the drivers have to take this one just to get around it. More than 180 degrees, so they're almost going back on themselves here. And then through one of the more fun sections of the circuit, Essa, the left and the right for turns 12 and 13. Now into the final corner, Roma. Quite a lot of banking on this one as well. Stick to the inside to get all that camber, then run all the way out. You'll see them using that green painted tarmac on the outside as well, as much of the runoff as possible. And we'll see now as they start to set their lap times. And so Ercole, who has set the fastest lap time so far, is a 1:43.749. Not quite as quick as we saw in practice yesterday, but I'm sure those lap times will start to decrease as we make our way further into the session. The drivers back in the cars for the first time today, of course. They've still got to get back into the swing of things, and they have still got quite a bit of time to do so. 10 minutes left on the clock, and we're starting to see some faster lap times coming in. Alon Day heads to the top of the timing tower with a 1:42.145. We saw times, quickest times from yesterday in practice of about 1:41.6, I believe. So there's still a little bit more time out there, especially for some of the drivers who might not have set the best lap times of their ability on that first run. But a good banker lap there from Alon Day, three-time champion of the series, of course. And also the driver with the most wins in the series, looking to try and get number 30 here this weekend. As we follow around our current championship leader in that number 56 car. Rocca currently sitting in 5th place with a 1:44.2. Coming around the final corner now, is it going to be an improvement for the driver of that number 56? Across the line he will go. I believe it is a slight improvement, and Ercole has just set a 1:41.2 to go to the top of the timing tower. Fastest lap I've seen this weekend. There's Rocca's time, goes up to the top as well. Took a couple seconds to make its way to the top of the timing tower. 1:41.4, so the time is really starting to tumble now on the second laps. We'll see Alon Day making his way across the line as well to finish his second lap, and it's a 1:40.9. Very quick lap time starting to come down. That puts him right to the top of the timing tower. Remember, it's not provisional pole just yet. We still do have the super pole qualifying for the top few drivers in that timing tower. They will compete in a separate 5-minute session at the end of this 15-minute one. getting out of the way now is Alonso, obviously not on a quick lap, not happy with the first couple of corners, or maybe going to make his way down to the pits at the end of this lap as well. But a full 0.3 of a second quicker than the nearest rival. Definitely going to be happy with that lap. As the timing tower starts to shift around a little bit more. 3 drivers now into the 1 minute 41s. And you've got to go all the way to Armetta in 14th position in that number 55 to find someone in the 43s. Only just. But it just shows how close the field is. So many drivers in those 1 minute 42s. Very fine margins here between someone finishing this qualifying session in 10th or in 4th. Following the number 3 car now, making their way in towards turn number 7 here at Campagnano. Very tricky to try and pick a line through here because unlike most of the corners on the circuit, it doesn't have a massive amount of camber or banking. So you can sort of pick your own line through there. Some drivers will prefer to get a better exit, some cars going for a better entry speed. One of the best overtaking opportunities on the circuit for sure, trying to get a good exit out of Chimney 2. That will set you up nicely for a move into Campagnano there. 6.5 minutes left to go in this first qualifying session for EuroNASCAR Pro. We haven't seen any of the front runners find it necessary to get any quicker. We've just seen Hazemans move up a position with a 142.1. That's enough to get past Matchy there. Following around now, the number 89, that's Urelli, in 4th place at the minute. Making his way through the flat-out left-hander. A little bit of a kink to the right before a very tricky braking zone into Semaforo. Before the tightest corner on the circuit. Torrentino excruciatingly slowly through there. The drivers always feel like they can go a little bit faster, but the second they try it, out into the grass they will go. Through the left and the right of Essa and out towards the final corner of Roma. Is this going to be a quick lap for Ghirelli now in the number 89? Through the final corner he goes. And up towards the line. Will it be an improvement on the 141.696? It is not. That actually looks like a banker lap. Looking at the lap time there, a 146.1. And probably going for a push lap now through Chimney 1 and Chimney 2. One minute 40.923, still the time to beat, up at the very top of the timing tower. Allende lighting up the timing sheet for that lap. 0.3 quicker than Ercole in 2nd place. So you see a little bit of traffic here, heading into the final corner. Couple cars are really getting quite close to each other. Almost a bit of bump drafting going on down the front straight in towards Curva Grande, the 2nd corner on the circuit. This right-hander, very quick, quickest part of the circuit for sure. And to the heavy braking zone now, the 64 car of Alexander Graf, pole position at Valencia, race winner round 4 at Brands Hatch. trying to go a little bit better than the 5th place, that is 141.5, has currently got him. Slicing his way through the traffic at the chimneys. And now into the right-hander at turn 7. Heavy braking zone for this one. Driver in front getting right out of the way and allowing Alexander to get on with things. 3 minutes left in the session. So not going to have many more opportunities for the drivers here. If they haven't already started a lap, they're going to be struggling to get round in time to start a new one. Graf heading into the final few corners now as well. We'll wait to see what sort of lap time that becomes for the driver of the number 64. And here is a driver of interest. It is Hazelman's out there in the circuit. EuroNASCAR 2, or supposed to be EuroNASCAR 2 driver, but has had to fill in EuroNASCAR Pro a couple of times already this season at Brands Hatch. Hazelman's doing the same thing here at Vallelunga as well. So loads of seat time for Hazelman's in his first season of EuroNASCAR competition. Making his way through Semaforo now and into Torrentino. Currently sitting in 11th place, just 21 thousandths of a second behind the driver of Gabellon in front. So we'll see, can the driver of that number 50 machine improve on that? Through the final corner he will go now, staying as close to the inside as possible. Try not to touch that orange sausage on the inside. Some drivers making their way into the pit lane now near the end of the session. Across the line comes Hazelman's, and what lap time is that going to be? 142.082, so not quite quick enough. Less than a tenth of a second slower than Hazelman's previous fastest time. Will only have one more opportunity to improve on that and try and get into the top 10. .45 seconds left for drivers to cross the line and start a new flying lap. A couple more lap times coming in from drivers. Very confident are our top 4 drivers. Alon Day, we've got Curley in there as well. Rocker, all on 3 laps. They did their 3 fastest laps and then immediately pitted the cars, and they were very confident that time was fast enough to take them through to superpole. And it looks like so far at least they were completely correct in assuming so, as we'll be seeing them in the 5-minute shootout in just a few minutes time. The clock is going to tick down to 0. The checkered flag will start to wave as the drivers on their laps are now on their last attempts. We'll see if anyone is going to be able to make it through into that superpole session in these dying few moments. Running all the way wide, using every possible inch of tarmac on the outside of the corner is that number 18 machine. It is Maggi in 5th position. Little bit of dust being kicked up on the exit of the final corner, Roma. And that lap time there, the lap time is a 1:41.587, so not quite quick enough to improve on the 1:41.438 that has already been set by Maggi there. And I believe that's almost every single driver across the line. It might be every single driver across the line. So that is the end of the first 15-minute qualifying session. A couple more drivers still out on the circuit. And we are going to prepare ourselves for that 5-minute superpole session to figure out who is going to be starting round 5 of EuroNASCAR Pro from pole position. Drivers still having to make their way through that dust cloud that was kicked up by Maggi there at the end. Couple more lap times coming in. Still not quite quick enough for anyone to make any moves. So lots of drivers now. They're going to make their way back towards the pit lane. And then we'll get underway for superpole. Order from qualifying. Alonde up at the top. And then we've got Coley in second, Lemery in third, Rocker in fourth, Maggi in fifth, Alexander Graf in sixth, Girelli in seventh. As the drivers all file their way into the pit lane here. It took just 2 laps for most of the top 4 drivers to set their quickest attempts. Will they be able to go any faster than a 1:40.9 set by Alonde in that qualifying session? We will have to wait and find out. See the pit lane there now, drivers being pushed back into their garages. But for a select few, they will have 5 more minutes to try and gain a little bit of extra time and see what they can do, where they can position themselves for the first race of EuroNASCAR Pro at Vallelunga in 2022, coming up later on today. Track should be going green for the superpole very shortly. All the drivers seem to be back into the pit lane now as we await the green flag command from race control. As it appears we will have a couple of minutes until superpole begins. All eyes will be on those drivers up at the front of the championship, of course. Alonde setting in a lightning fast lap time in that first qualifying session. Coley and Rocker not too far behind. Alexander Graf not quite able to make up any more time near the end of that session. But we'll see what they can do with a fresh slate to work off of. A little bit less traffic for them to work through as well. I know that Graf did have quite a bit of traffic on that last flying lap attempt. The mechanics in the pit lane working to get those cars ready to go back out onto the circuit. And some of the EuroNASCAR 2 drivers are getting ready to get into their cars for their 20-minute session that's coming up in just a bit. Didn't see too many cars going off in qualifying, which is always good to see. A couple of them struggling a little bit in free practice earlier on yesterday. You can see the marshal at the end of the pit lane getting the green flag ready. So we are obviously about to get underway for superpole. Cars making their way to the end of the pit lane, and at the very front of that queue, it is Nicola Rocca, right at the end, of the pit lane. Very eager to get going. Only 5 minutes is superpole, so not a whole lot of time at all. You can try and get a little bit of an extra lap at the end if you're quick enough. But we'll see if any of the drivers are going to be quick enough to make that happen. Green flag waves at the end of the pit lane. Green light at the end of the pit lane as well. We are green for superpole. 5 minutes on the clock. And it is Rocca followed by Ercole right at the front of this queue. All the drivers making their way out onto the circuit now. And they're not holding back on the outlaps either. They want to get back round to the start-finish line as quickly as possible. Looking at Rocca now, you can see the red banner on the windshield, front and back. Indicates the championship leader for EuroNASCAR Pro in that number 56 machine. Heading through Campagnano now, followed by the teammate of Ercole. Alonde, interestingly enough, decided not to go out quite as quickly, a little bit further back in the queue, but most of the drivers onto the circuit as quickly as they possibly could get there. No weaving around and trying to warm up the tyres so far on this lap. They're just going full on, trying to get round as quickly as possible into the twisty bits there near the end of the circuit. Green flag still waving. Already 90 seconds gone in superpole. 3.5 minutes still to go. The drivers coming around now towards the end of the lap. They're going to be starting their first flying laps of this session now. Round Roma, Rocca goes. Good exit, they're not kicking up too much dust on the exit, and crosses the line to start the first flying lap of superpole here at Vallelunga through the left. I'm not quite sure if it's flat out through that right-hander and then through the left as well. I did see potentially some yellow flags at the exit of the final corner, but this part of the circuit for sure is green. The number 56 and 54 machines making their way through. Two Italian drivers as well at their home race. Definitely want to get one up on Alon after Alon beat them in qualifying one by around about 0.3 of a second. Into Sorate, there you go, you can see those sausage curves on the exit. A couple drivers getting on the wrong side of those in practice. Quite a bit of damage caused to one of the cars, I believe, as well, running over those, and they can really destroy the car, slam it into the ground. They make their way towards the end of the lap. 3 corners to go for our front two, Ercole and Rocca, as they're going to be making their way around the final corner any moment now. And we'll start to see some lap times being set in this session. They will have one extra attempt to try and make something happen in this superpole session. Across the line goes the number 89 machine. It's a 140.6 for Ercole on that first attempt in the 54, the bright pink machine. So even quicker already than what we saw in qualifying number 1. The lap time starting to come in. The 18 going around the final corner now as well. Alonde setting a 141.065, so almost half a second slower than Ercole at the moment. After the first laps, it's Ercole on positional pole, followed by Alonde, then Lemery in third position with a 141.5, another half a second back. And then it's Girelli, Rocca, Graf, Dubec in the top 8. In fact, Maggi's just taken third position off Lemery. by about a tenth of a second with a 1:41.5 flat. Drivers will be making their way around the final sections of the circuit now. The clock ticks down to 0 and Superpole will come to a close. Drivers now one opportunity left. This will be their final laps in qualifying. We'll see how the order changes on these second hot laps. Our front two, round the final corner they go, across the line, they take the checkered flag. And what lap times are they going to be setting? It's not quicker for Ercole, a 1:40.9, and for Rocca, it's also not quicker, it's about a tenth slower than the first attempt. So both of those drivers at the front not improving on their previous lap times. And it's to Rocca's detriment as well, because Alexander Graf has just set a 1:41.584, putting him up into 6th position. Girelli gets ahead of Lemery as well, a 1:41.253, just 0.05 of a second quicker than Lemery, puts Girelli up into 4th position. Which means that, unsurprisingly, Ercole is going to take pole position for today's race in EuroNASCAR Pro with a 1:40.607, the fastest lap that we have seen all weekend long so far here at Vallelunga. The number 54 machine will line up alongside Alon Day later on at race number 5 of the NASCAR Whelen Euro Series here at Vallelunga. Through Essay, here he goes now, and that is going to be one very happy Italian starting on pole position at the first of his 2 home races this season. Number 56 of Rocca, he's going to be starting in 8th position after looking quite quick in qualifying 1. Just not able to get a solid lap together. Ends up with a 1:41.836 in the end for Nicola Rocca. As the drivers will make their way into the pit lane now. The end of Superpole. And we'll see how the EuroNASCAR 2 drivers will compare in just a bit. So you get a lovely close-up here of the number 54. They're going to wheel it back into the garage. Beautiful paint scheme on that car. But a massive, massive job from Ercole to get that car onto pole position. Alonde did end up gaining a little bit of time on his second attempt. Set a 1:40.7, so even quicker again than what we saw in qualifying 1 from Alon. But still just about over a tenth shy of that pole position. You can see they're out the car. Taking some photos for the social media with the team. They're all very, very happy. You can see getting congratulations from the other drivers as well, from teammates. They all know that was a very quick lap time. Brilliant job there from Gianmarco Ercole. Gets pole position here at Vallelunga. The rest of the qualifying order, Alonde lines up in 2nd place. Then we've got Maggi in 3rd place. Girelli in 4th place. Lemery in 5th. Alexander Graf in 6th position. Goossens in 7th. Rocca in 8th. Bleekmolen in 9th place, and De Beck in 10th position. The top 10 from Superpole there. And we'll see them line up in that order for the first of the 75-kilometer races a little bit later on today. See the marshals getting the track prepared for the EuroNASCAR 2's qualifying session. That won't have a Superpole session. That will just be a straight 20-minute session to see who will make it to the top. So we won't be seeing what we saw earlier on, where the top drivers set one lap time and made their way straight back into the pit lane. Crowd starting to fill out a little bit more now as well, as we get prepared for some racing action on the circuit after this qualifying sessions. And we have got Girelli ready for an interview. We have got Andre down in the pit lane.
Yeah, we're still waiting for the pole sitter Gianmarco Ercoli, but we have Vittorio Girelli. I think this is a comeback, right? With a strong qualifying here with Not Only Motorsport. You did an amazing job here on the home track. How was it for you being out there with this heat and with the car?
Yeah, I mean, it's happy to be here. Always nice to race at home. Well, yeah, good comeback. After the first two races, we had so many issues with engine failures and stuff. But anyway, we did a good job. This race, I switched car because the 36 was not so lucky for me. But yeah, before in quali, I mean, we still have work to do because I had some balance issues. But I mean, we're in the pack, you know, we're in the battle. So in the races, everything can happen. We lack a little bit of pace, but I mean, I'm on for it. It doesn't scare me, you know. So P4 is a good starting position, and we'll go for it.
How is it with the tires? We know it's very warm here in Italy. You only have one set of tires for the whole weekend. Did you manage to save some tires in qualifying for the races?
Yeah, actually I risked a bit in the first qualifying because I did only 3 laps. But anyway, I had a 41.6, which was okay to keep me in Superpole. And then in Superpole, I went for it, but yeah, I was struggling with the balance already. The tires were going off already, so yeah, races will be warm and will be hard to manage the tires, you know. But we will have work to do and try to, you know, give a good car to me. We will work with the team, with the engineers, and let's go for it.
All right, grazie mille, thank you so much, and congratulations.
To you. Thanks.
Always great to hear from the drivers after qualifying, and still is quite waiting on pole sitter, but always good to hear from the drivers. Interesting to hear about the tyre situation there as well. Drivers definitely not wanting to spend more time on the track than they have to in the temperatures that we are seeing down on the circuit as well. Only getting warmer as the day goes on. And we've got
qualifying for Uruguay, right?
Yeah, I'm a little bit disappointed, you know, because I think I was P3 all the time, you know, in the first session and first lap of Superpole as well. So I was expecting a little bit better, but I missed a braking in the last lap, so it cost me 2 places. But I think we look pretty strong for the race.
This was qualifying, but now the race. What are the key points to be successful at Vallelunga?
Have a good start, like a little bit everywhere. I hope everybody is going to be correct and calm, so we have a good show. Because sometimes a little bit, you know, a little bit too much. But and the rest of it is a very difficult track, so try to be very consistent and not make any mistakes. And I think we have the pace, but that will be the key. Just stay on the track and not, you know, conserve the tires and everything. It'll be careful with the car because it's going to be very, very hot as well. So the guy who's going to be the most consistent, I think we will this afternoon.
All right. Merci beaucoup. Thank you so much. And I think we can now go to the pole sitter. Thank you so much. Ciao, Gianmarco. It is your track. You won here in 2022. Now you're on pole position. You're ready to strike back, right?
So I'm very happy because it's my first pole position in the qualifying, because I am always I have good speed in the race 1 for starting pole position in race 2, but in qualifying is my first time. I'm very happy. I work very hard for this result, and after I am in my home track, so Here is impossible leave points.
We see a lot of people on the grandstands here in front of us. How is it to race in front of so many Italian fans here at Vallelunga?
I am very happy to have the race in my home because it's good for the sponsor, for the fan, for the friends. So I have the power of the fan. It's very, very, very nice.
All right. Grazie mille, congratulations, thank you so much, and good luck in the race. And we're now heading back to Dane for the EuroNASCAR 2 qualifying.
For Gianmarco there. Well, like Andre said, it is time to end EuroNASCAR Pro's qualifying session and move on to EuroNASCAR 2. The same cars will be out on the circuit, but with different drivers in them. And we have had some brilliant racing so far in this series. Fan favorite driver Alberto NASCAR, obviously a big YouTuber, has been a big part of this season, right up near the front. It's the time to see how they've been getting on. First round at Valencia, of course, and it was a great start from that driver in the number 5 there, Vladimiros, taking the victory in race number 1. The Cypriot doing a fantastic job there, and now into race 2, 3 wide and towards turn number 1. Didn't quite end up going to plan. Side by side for the race lead, and in that number 88 is Alberto NASCAR. Very popular driver, especially here in Italy. Definitely one to keep an eye out on, taking the win in that second race of the championship. Then on to Brands Hatch on the NASCAR Grand Prix UK. Once again, it was Vladimiros up at the front. Drama as a couple drivers making their way off, but it was Alberto NASCAR who took the win in that first race at Brands Hatch as well. And then a massive dogfight here at the beginning of the race in race number 2. Both races here at Brands Hatch going into overtime. We couldn't get a winner in standard time. Races ending under safety car. There is Alberto NASCAR up in the top step of the podium. Race number 2. I started on pole position, right up at the front, looking great for him in that number 88. More drama there. Safety car at the end of the race, and it all came down to the final 2 laps in overtime. First and second, it was Vladimiros and Alberto NASCAR going side by side. Plenty of contact. They make their way through Paddock Hill, and somehow on the final 2 laps, Liam Hazemans took the victory from 3rd place at the beginning of overtime. And a brilliant bit of racing skill being put on display by Liam there. The Dutchman doing a fantastic job at the end of that second race at Brands Hatch to take the win. We will see the on-track action in just a few moments' time. Green flag is already out. The drivers will be making their way out onto the circuit now. 20 minutes, solid single qualifying session here in the EuroNASCAR 2. The drivers will want to get those tyres warmed up. They won't have to do too much to warm them up though. Temperatures have been increasing, 24 degrees Celsius out there now. As they make their way through Jimny 1 and Jimny 2. There is the fan favourite Alberto NASCAR in that number 88 machine. Very impressive over the first couple of rounds. Second, first, and second in the first 4 races. Pretty much as good as you'd like. See what he can do here in front of his home fans. Red banner on top of that number 88 as well. Championship leader in EuroNASCAR 2. Gave us some great insight into the ins and outs of Vallelunga circuit as well on the EuroNASCAR YouTube channel. run us through each of the corners. Talked about Torrentino especially, how slow this corner feels when you're in the car. You've gone through Curva Grande at maximum speed, bottoming out in the compression there, and then to get into Torrentino and for it to be so slow, it just feels very awkward for the drivers to make it around that corner. But it is very important as well. You can gain quite a bit of time getting that exit right. Around the final corner, he will go to start his first flying lap of the session. Not quite flat out for Alberto Nasca there. In towards Chimney 1 and Chimney 2. Loads of banking here. Really carry the speed nicely. Up and over the curbs on the outside as well. Extend as much of the tarmac on the outside as you can. Carry as much speed through those corners. Now in towards turn 6 and into turn 7. Campagnano, a little bit of traffic in front of Alberto here. Hopefully it doesn't affect that lap time too much. Traffic gets out of the way nice and quickly. In towards turn 8 here, through the left-hander. Nicely done. And then carrying as much speed through this left-hander over the crest. Towards the end of the lap. Loads of cars out on the circuit here in EuroNASCAR 2. As the first lap times will be coming in very shortly indeed. We'll see the first of what we can expect from EuroNASCAR 2 here this weekend. As here comes the number 88 round the final corner at Roma. We will see what the first lap times are here in qualifying. Remember, it was a 1:40.6, the fastest lap time set in EuroNASCAR Pro. That was the pole position time. And so far, a 1:42.2 is fastest from NASCAR. Only just a tenth faster than Dubec in first and second. And then about half a second back Del So in the number 3 machine. Loads of traffic here as they make their way through the chimneys. I think everyone that was on the hot lap in that group of cars can pretty much abort it and try again next time by. Massive amounts of traffic with the cars all making their way through there, about 5 or 6 of them. That's pretty much ruined every single car's lap in one corner. Still trying to weave his way through the traffic. That's the number 3 of Del So. Only about 6/10 off of provisional pole position as it stands now. As we see a couple more lap times coming in. Still quite close though, up at the top of the order. We'll see as they make their way through Torrentino again. In turn 11 of 14 on the circuit. This big group of cars. We'll see if anyone has been able to improve. Into the final corner they will go now. As Hazemans has managed to get a 1:42.1 and puts himself up onto provisional pole, obviously with quite a little bit more track time and a lot of experience in that number 50 machine as well. 1:42.1 for Liam Hazemans is enough for provisional pole as it stands now. Looks like most of the drivers taking a lap to cool down last time by. And we'll get going again for a hot lap this time around. Oh, red flag. Red flag is out. So the session will be halted. Drivers all slowing right down now as red flag is out. So wonder why that's been called. Haven't seen anybody go off just yet, but marshals waving the red flag. Race control decided to stop the session. And that is not what you want to see, especially as a driver. You're going through the first sector of the course. If you're on a good lap, you see the red flag, it can really throw you out of your rhythm. Drivers will make their way down into the pit lane. And that is the car that is stranded, and quite possibly the cause of this red flag period. Couldn't quite make out what part of the circuit that was at, but definitely a car stuck out there on the circuit. The marshals will get out and try and deal with that as quickly as possible. But we will wait for the drivers to make their way down into the pit lane. Not the first red flag of the weekend. We saw a fair few in the practice sessions. But you can see there all the teams having a few words with the drivers. The drivers might be communicating with the teams, just making sure everything is all good. As we are going to remove the stranded vehicle from the circuit. We'll just try and figure out which car that is. It does look like it is the number 9 machine. Number 9 machine belonging to Dario Casso, I believe. It is indeed the number 9 machine. And we should have the session resuming in just a couple of minutes' time. 10:51 local time, so just 2 minutes' time. So pretty much as soon as this car is off the circuit, being towed back down into the pit lane, we'll figure out what is wrong with that car. It doesn't look like I can see any visible damage on the car, so looks like it might just be a failure in the car of some kind. Hopefully it will be ready to go again for the race a bit later on. We'll have to wait and find out about that. But the drivers in the pit lane will be getting ready to go back out there again. You can see they're being pushed out back onto formation. And they're queuing up at the pit exit. Just a few seconds to go until we will be getting back to underway for green flag running in this qualifying session. To remind you of the qualifying order, Liam Hazelman's out in front at the moment. A 10th behind is Alberto Nasca in second place. Another 10th back, you'll find Dubec. Martin Dubec there in the number 7. And then in a 142.8, just 6/10 behind the lead, is Del. So green flag is out again. 13 minutes and 50 seconds remaining in this session. You can see all the drivers with their lap times out there on the timing tower as well. And unfortunately, we have lost the number 9 from the session. They'll all be eager to get going again. They won't need to be warming up their tyres too much. They won't have cooled down that much in the red flag period. There is a 24 Malcorrect. A little bit of a lock up there. You want to avoid that as much as possible. Obviously the tyres, you do have to use them for the whole weekend, so getting a big flat spot on those tyres now would be pretty disastrous for the rest of your time here at the American Festival of Rome. There is another driver eager to get going at the beginning of this resumed session. Number 88, AutoNASCAR, just 1/10.109 seconds behind Liam Hazeman's out in first and second in this qualifying session. Coming around the final couple of corners, will get going for the next flying laps. Because everyone's coming out at the same time, their flying laps will all come in at the same time again as well. So this will be interesting to see how the drivers have taken what they figured out from their first few minutes of running and apply it here after the red flag period. Across the line, more of the drivers go. Left hand kink for turn 1 easily flats out, and then this right hander for turn 2. Drivers saying that they can actually feel the chassis of the car smack the ground through that part of the corner with the compression. Definitely going to be an interesting time later on today when they've got to go side by side through there at the beginning of the races in both EuroNASCAR 2 and EuroNASCAR Pro. As we have another car stopped on the circuit. I couldn't quite make out which car that was either. Are we going to have a second red flag period though? That looks like it's almost in an identical position to the car that was stopped earlier on, and we have got another red flag. Another car stranded on the circuit. Around 10.5 minutes left of this qualifying session. The drivers will make their way back into the pit lane. They didn't even make it halfway around the circuit on their flying laps. It's the number 47 that's stranded on the circuit, Colavita, currently in 17th position in the timing standings. There it is. And it is almost an identical position to the car that was stranded a little bit earlier on. So I wonder what's been going on there. But more disruption for the drivers in this qualifying session. Again, it doesn't look like there's any damage to that car, at least nothing that we can see from the outside anyway. So another failure of the car out on the circuit in a very similar position, which is a very strange coincidence there. But still the red flag will fly. We'll wait for that car to get towed back again. So we can expect another couple minutes of delays here in this EuroNASCAR 2 qualifying session for round number 5 of NASCAR Whelen Euro Series. We'll have around about 10 minutes left of the session when they get back going again. We know it's about a 1:40 lap time. For the drivers that are out on warm-up laps, usually more around the range of 147 to 150. So when they start their flying laps, they'll have about 8 minutes left on the clock. That's not a whole lot of time for the drivers. They aren't going to have as many laps as they would have hoped for, at least not flying laps anyway. So they've only had really 1 attempt or 2 attempts out there on the circuit. At some good flying laps. And once again, good work by the circuit team there. Getting the cars towed off nice and quickly. Helps that the cars are right near the pit entry, so they can just tow it straight back into the pit lane and not take too much time at all. But very similar scenes to what we saw just a few minutes ago with the number 9 machine. So very interesting there that both cars stopped in almost identical positions. But the drivers will be getting ready to go back green shortly. We'll see how the rest of this qualifying session pans out. We've got some fans out there getting the flags out, getting the banners out. Good to see them cheering on their favourite drivers there. You can see the grandstand looking much more full here at Vallelunga compared to at the beginning of the qualifying session. So the fans really starting to make their way into the circuit as well. And the green light is back on at the end of the pit lane. We are running again. So 2 Racers Motorsport cars stopping at the same point of the circuit. So it might be a little bit of a worrying time if you are Paolo Valeri in the number 8 machine, the 3rd of the Racers Motorsport cars. Hopefully we can get the rest of this 10 minutes remaining in qualifying completed without further delay. Once again, we have got Alberto Nasca right near the front of this group of cars, not wasting any time at all, making his way around the circuit again, side-by-side action here into the chimneys. That's the 33 and 29 cars, I believe, making their way around the circuit. Nine minutes remaining. Drivers still trying to make their way back towards the start-finish line to start a flying lap. They haven't been able to finish a flying lap in what feels like. They'll be very eager to get back going again. Through the tightest section of the circuit now. Goes to number 29. And lagging a little bit further behind is the number 94 car. Making their way through the middle sector. But now we once again have got cars on flying laps. We'll see what these EuroNASCAR 2 drivers can produce for us. 13.3 seconds in the first 2 sectors for Hasemans. Slightly quicker than Alberto Nasca in second place. As we see the number 56 machine there. That's Linster in that car. Going through the chimneys, navigating through some traffic. And through sectors 3 and 4. It does look like Hasemans has aborted his current lap and it's going to go again later, but 1 minute 19.388 through sectors 3 and 4 for Alberto Nasca. Crosses the line 41.0, 9/10 quicker than Dubec, who's done a 141.9, the first two drivers to get into the 41s. Hasemans still on that 142.1 from earlier on. And we've got a car off on the grass on the inside there. Is that just getting out of the way? Yellow flags being waved there, so these drivers' laps probably not going to be the quickest of their sessions at least. So what has happened there? It was down here as we follow Alberto Nasca in towards turn 10 now. This is where the yellow flags were waving. And you can see where the car went off on the right hand side. Red flag out again. The third red flag in the session. Around about 6 minutes left to go. What has happened this time to cause the red flag? Alberto Nasca might not be too disappointed with this one. Currently sitting up in the top, and oh! Big contact in the inside wall out of the final corner. That's on the start-finish straight. And that is a very valid reason for a red flag, yes. Big contact being made on the inside wall there. Not sure if there was contact with another driver involved, or have they just touched the grass on the outside of the final corner and spun it around. But either way, big contact has been made on that inside wall, on the pit wall. There's bits of bodywork all over the circuit as well. The driver is moving in the car. It's good to hear though. It does look, of course, like the contact was on the driver's side as well. So great to hear that the driver is moving inside the cockpit. Hopefully we can get them out of that car. Driver getting out of the car now. You can just about see it there. Marshall's trying to help him out there. But some big contact on the inside wall there. And that is a heavily damaged NASCAR race car right there. The number 44. It's Koika Leinen. And the driver's being held at the pit entry, just to give the marshals a bit of space to work with, I would imagine. And he's out of the car now. They've moved the car away from the pit wall, and he's managed to get out of the car now. So good to see there. You can see some of the fans in the grandstands there, but it's good to see that the driver is out of the car and seems to be doing just fine. But the marshals now have to decide what they're going to do about this car stranded on the start-finish straight. Not the easiest thing to move. They can't really just tow this one away because it doesn't look like any of the four wheels in that car are still intact. And the session will not resume. We're being told by race control that is the end of the qualifying session for EuroNASCAR 2, and understandably so. We've already had a couple of delays in the session already, and this is going to be a big one for the marshals to try and clear up. So the session will not resume. That is the end of your EuroNASCAR 2 qualifying session. And the order is as follows. On pole position in the number 88 for the race later on today will be Alberto NASCAR with a 1:41.0. Only 4/10 off of the EuroNASCAR Pro times for pole position. So very quick lap being set there by Alberto NASCAR. 4/10 behind him in second place. It is the Cypriot. It is Vladimiros Tsiotsis in the number 5 machine there. Then in third position, Dubek, 0.8 of a second behind pole position. Liam Hazemans did a good job in qualifying in Pro, and now in the EuroNASCAR 2 category, finishes in 4th position in qualifying with a 1:42.1. And then it is Malkarek in 5th position with a 1:42.6. The rest of the field, we've got Pontinen in 6th position, Delso in 7th, De Groot in 8th position, Capelli in 9th, and Linster rounding out your top 10 in EuroNASCAR 2. You can see there the marshals lifting up the back of the number 44. And there is the pole award for the number 88, the driver Alberto NASCAR. Very happy with that one indeed. Andre there. A very happy driver in that number 88 machine. Has had a dream start to the season, leading the championship, of course, 2 wins and 2 second place finishes. And here at his home race, home event here at Vallelunga in Italy, the Italian driver will start on pole position for today's 5th round of the championship. Brilliant stuff for Alberto there. And it's the first time that a driver that is not Vladimiros Tsiotsis has started from pole position. And it's just about 4/10 of a second shy there before the red flag came out. And Alberto NASCAR, for the first time this season and in his EuroNASCAR career, will start from pole position. As we wait for the drivers to make their way over to Andre for a quick word. You can see him there making his way down the pit lane. Very, very happy, and the fans will be loving it. You can see that round of applause for the fan favorite. And he is ready with Andre.
Great qualifying for you, and it's quite hard to get to you because there are so many fans in your pit box. Yeah. How is it? How is the feeling to have the pole award in front of so many Italian fans?
It's the best feeling in the world. I mean, it's wonderful. It's amazing to see all these people that came here for the EuroNASCAR and also for me, and wow. The qualifying was the weirdest qualifying I have ever seen because I couldn't do a single clean lap. The only clean lap that I had was the one of the pole position, but it was a lap with many mistakes. In the following lap, I had almost the lap time as the pole of the pro, so I say, okay, I'm flying. Then the third red flag, and say, luckily we didn't record it in radio this time because I was mega angry, but luckily I did the pole. I mean, pole position is pole position, so good.
This is your home track, and you described it already for us on the YouTube channel. What are the trickiest parts here?
You know, it's tricky because you have probably the fastest and the slowest corner and the EuroNASCAR circuits in one circuit, so you have every type of corner, so the car must be set up properly for any type of corner. You know, there are 2 corners where it's easy to lock up, which are Campagnano and Semaforo, which has the hairpins. and I already did a flat spot yesterday, so I already destroyed the tire. That's where we have to be careful, because one flat spot means race over. You know, I was driving 1 second slower with the flat spot yesterday, so you must not do flat spots. And those are the parts where you usually overtake. So that's the most tricky part for me.
All right, thank you so much. Grazie mille. Congratulations.
Thank you. Bye. Ciao ragazzi.
Always fantastic to hear from the pole sitter, and a very visibly happy Alberto NASCAR there, holding his pole award. He will start from the first position later on today.
Yeah, you know all the time, huh?
Congratulations from Liam Hasemans there as well. And that rounds up EuroNASCAR 2's qualifying session.
I'm here down with Liam Hasemans. So, how happy are you?
Well, not so happy because yeah, we couldn't do actually a lap because of the qualifying. Yeah, a lot of red flags. So yeah, we could do just one lap. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame because there was more pace in it, that's for sure. But yeah, starting fourth, I'm not disappointed. But yeah, could have been better if there wasn't so much red flag. So yeah, but it's like that.
On the other hand, you saved your tires for the race, right?
Yeah, that's true. So now we just have to see how it goes in the race. So starting fourth, it's outside. So yeah, no, it should be fine. If we have a safe race, just pass the first couple of laps, and then building up from there, it should be fine. Yeah.
With the momentum you gained in Brands Hatch, how is your confidence in the car today?
Yeah, no, it's actually quite well, but we're a bit lacking with pace. Because yeah, Alberto and Sirotsis, they have a bit more pace than us, we saw. Yeah, I think we're off maybe like 4 or 5 tenths, I think. So yeah, we still have to get a bit of a setup on the car, and then yeah, if we come, it should be fine. But yeah, the feeling in the car is just awesome as always. So yeah, no, it should be okay.
All right, thank you so much, and congratulations.
Good to hear from Liam Hasemans there as well. He's starting quite near to the front, so can't be too hard on himself, but has a good opportunity to make up some positions. There are a good couple of overtaking areas at this Vallelunga circuit. Well, that is everything from qualifying here today, but we will be back at 1:20 p.m. local time, that's Central European Summer Time, for the first race of the weekend in EuroNASCAR Pro. Round 5 of their campaign will kick off in just over 2 hours' time. And we hope to see you there on EuroNASCAR Live on our YouTube channel or on all of our associated platforms. Thank you everybody for watching. We'll see you in just a bit.
Sorry, but